Okay, so we're live, and I'm going to be doing a live of a live that I did earlier today. So I had a debate with a vegan influencer, professional debater on the subject of vegan, makes spoof videos, and his thing is veganism. Okay, that's his big thing. So usually vegans won't debate. So I challenge vegans all the time to debate. This is one of the rare exceptions where they wouldn't debate me, but they pulled in this big gun. Hey, he'll debate you. He'll rip you apart. So I debated him. It's a very long debate. A lot of it's painful, sidetracking to rubbish and what have you. But what I thought I'd do is just take a 10-minute section and show you really the heart of the debate and how well. I'll let you make some decisions. But I'm gonna share my screen so you can see and hear it. And what I'm going to do is as I'm going to pause it every now and again to explain or to add a little bit of insight. I'm hoping you guys can hear this really well. So this is him. His name is David Rams. He's got a. You can find this video, the full video, on his YouTube channel. He entitled it "Meat Loving Christian Debating a Vegan Live." So that was his title, and it was done, as I say, on his channel. He was in control of that because it was all on his stuff. So let me start off by playing a little bit. As I say, it's going to be a 10-minute section, but I might pause it and say a few bits and pieces here and there. So here we go. So we can both agree on that point. But what you're saying is that that the vegan diet is a healthy diet, and therefore we don't need to eat animals. And if we don't need to eat animals, we shouldn't eat them for moral reasons when we can be as healthy or more healthy not eating animals. Is that a fair summary of your position?
A nutritionally adequate plant-based diet, yes. If you're meeting your nutritional requirements, then there's no reason for you to be consuming or using any animals.
Okay,
for
so
anything.
let's address that and look at whether that's a true statement, because that's one of the main reasons you've just given us why vegans are vegan. So first question I'd ask you is, what is the average lifespan of a vegan? So looking at vegans that are vegan from birth till they die, let me just pause that right there and say, okay, so this guy is claiming that the vegan diet is healthier than an omnivore diet, and so therefore we shouldn't eat animals, we should have a vegan diet. So I'm challenging that question. I don't believe a vegan diet is healthy. So my first question is a very reasonable question. If we're saying it's healthier, then what evidence of that? And the first thing I want to know is how long vegans live compared to other groups of people. So that would be a very important piece of data. I think you'd have to agree on to establish whether it was healthy or not. So let's see what he has to say. What's the average age that they live to?
I don't think there's been any major study on that, but there are major studies on the chances of the risk of all-cause mortality, and they found that within the vegans. I can tell you that this is a vegan diet conferred a significant reduced risk, minus 15% of total cancer. And other meta-analyses have shown vegans have lower risk of all-cause mortality compared to meat eaters and vegetarians.
How long vegans live?
Sorry, I don't have a data point to tell you.
Okay, so he can't answer the question, so he starts giving studies about risk, blah 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 blah. But the first, most critical question you need to know if you're going to say it's healthier is how long do they live then? Do they live 5 years longer, 10 years longer? You know, in what way? What effect does it have on your lifespan? And he can't answer that. And the reason he can't answer that, which we'll come to.
Meta-analysis of how long vegans live. No.
That's a pretty important bit of data if we're going to say it's healthy, but we don't know that. Okay, so let me try another thing. How long do we need to do a study on a diet before we can say, yeah, that's a healthy diet?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. So he's claiming it's a healthier diet, but he can't answer the most basic question: how long do we need to do a study before we can say it's healthy? So he's quoting studies that might be a 6-month study. A 6-month study is no way going to tell you if it's a healthy diet. Okay, it's not long enough. Just like a 6-month study on a vaccine, you can't determine a lot of stuff about whether that's a successful vaccine, whether it's healthy, whether it damages you, it's just not long enough, right? So the time period is critical. So you cannot make claims about this is a healthier diet when you don't even know basic stuff like how long people live that eat the diet, or even how long you need to study the diet? Is this not just common sense? Does this, is it not obvious? But he doesn't know. His answer to the question, how long do you need to do the study? I don't know. Then stop being an influencer and a spokesman for the vegan diet when you don't even know the most basic, obvious stuff.
I don't know. I don't have a number on that.
If you're going to claim a diet is healthy, but you don't know how long you need to do a study.
You can claim a diet is healthy by does it meet your nutritional requirements, and if you go to a hospital and you have a chat with a doctor and find out who's in there and what are they there for, you'll find that it's definitely not vegans who are in there dying. And as I just said, let me just finish this point. The meta-analyses that I've brought up, the two that I just brought up one showed that vegans had 15% reduced risk of cancer when compared to non-vegans, and another one showed.
Let me just comment on that as well. So he's comparing vegans who are health conscious and trying to be healthy, these studies are comparing, to people eating horrendous SAD diets. So yeah, that's a really bad comparison. That you need to compare vegans to people who are health consciously eating, for example, a paleo diet or something. But anyway, that just gives you a snapshot. It doesn't tell you if it's a long-term healthy diet, which he seems to be struggling to grasp here. And by the way, there's certain issues that the studies show that vegans have greater incidences of cancer. So anyway. Carry on.
Showed vegans have a significantly reduced risk of all-cause mortality compared to non-vegans. So there is data with tens of thousands of people, some of which identified as vegan. You don't know if they actually were or not, but they.
Whoa! Did you hear that? So they're doing studies on people who are identifying as vegans. We don't actually know if they are vegans. So he's just admitted that the study he's claiming, they don't even know if the people that are healthier are vegans. They've just claimed or made a statement that they identify as a vegan. This is why these kind of studies are pretty much useless.
Identified as vegan. So there is data, but just not the specific data points you're requesting.
Data. So there is data, just not what I'm requesting, i.e. the data that would prove if they live longer or. Well, we'll carry on. And some of the data is conflicting. Some data is positive for veganism, some's not so positive. There's lots of data, but what we need to be able to claim a diet is healthy, and you claim that it's nutritious.
You need the associations of dietetics, like the one in Canada, the US, England, also Italy, to say something like vegan diets are suitable for all stages of life, which, oh wait, they all did. Yeah, that's what you need. You need large bodies of scientists and doctors to...
So his claim is you don't need that data of actual vegans actually living longer. You just need certain authorities to claim that it's a decent diet. That's what he's claiming. But the problem with that is these same authorities have made lots of claims in the past, such as low-fat diet was the healthiest, and many other claims that were false. So his basic argument is to trust certain authorities which are funded by the same people that say we should be vaccinated and all the other things that we don't necessarily agree with. That's his authority, who haven't actually got the data because it doesn't exist, because they haven't got even one generation of data on vegans to be able to actually claim that it's proven to be a healthier diet for humans. They haven't got it.
Approve them, and then you can safely assume that they're good. Yeah.
Pseudoscience out there, and this is pseudoscience. So let me tell you what's scientific. You need to study.
Also, every one of these dietetics association is pseudoscience, but you're the one who's the real scientist here.
So pseudoscience, yeah, because they haven't got the data. If you haven't got enough time where people haven't even lived one generation, then you cannot make a scientific claim on no data. It's the same as they're doing with vaccines right now. They're making claims of safety without data. All of these organizations are doing this all the time. It is not scientific to make a claim when you haven't got the data to make the claim. So yes, absolutely, it's pseudoscience.
Well,
I'm going to give you logic, common sense that you can't refute.
Okay, give us some common sense that we can't debunk, that we can't possibly disagree with. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the purpose of a diet for a species? What is the purpose
of a diet for a species?
Yeah. What's the diet got to do for that species?
Meet nutritional requirements.
In order for what?
In order for an average life. An average living, no problems, no disease, no sickness, no tiredness, no growth problems. That's, you're trying to achieve the basics basic level of health or more.
The most important fact, right? Any diet that can't give sufficient health for the species to reproduce, have, in other words, have healthy babies who can go on to have healthy babies, is not a healthy diet.
Okay, so what's the claim? The claim is that the plant-based diet makes people have unhealthy babies?
What I'm asking you is to
Yeah.
use your common sense and agree with this obvious position that a healthy diet has to make you healthy enough to reproduce healthy offspring who can reproduce healthy offspring. If it can't do that, then it's not a healthy diet. That's just
It's
obvious common
one
sense.
element of it. Yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah.
He's uncomfortable with this. He's not liking where this is going. It's pretty obvious that to have a healthy diet, you have to be able to reproduce successfully. But he's really not keen on agreeing to that. But anyway, he's reluctantly agreed.
So what are you gonna?
Okay.
Are you gonna? I can't wait for this. Please make this claim that vegan babies are somehow, or people can't procreate if they're vegan. This would be great.
Well, interestingly, there are studies that show vegans have a much lower sperm count than meat eaters, unless they
Right.
are. But I'm not. We're not going to. I don't need to go there. So,
Okay.
so that is a very obvious requirement of a healthy diet, that the species can healthily reproduce offspring that reproduce. Now, there's many studies that show nutritional damage is multi-generational. So we all know that a mother, if she has a poor diet, that's going to affect her child.
Right.
Since even single nutrients like iodine, or iodine, as an example, if you're deficient in that, it can affect the IQ of your child.
Sure.
That's one example. So we all know that the diet of the parent affects its offspring. Okay?
Yes.
And that's undisputable. So he's just agreed that diet affects offspring. Okay, so one of the things that a study is going to need to do is not just study the effect on the individual, but on their offspring, because the diet affects offspring. This is a logical conclusion that he's not going to like. We can all agree with that. Okay, so that offspring then may some of the effects will reduce their ability to be fertile, for example. So they've done studies on rats where they've given them certain diets and it seems fine, but by the 5th generation they can't have pops, no more babies, because there's multi-generational damage over the generations. So here's my point. It's scientifically indisputable that diet affects not just your health, but your fertility and your ability to have a healthy offspring, and that happens over multi-generations. So any diet, before you can scientifically claim it's healthy, you have to be able to show that you can have healthy offspring, you can have healthy offspring, you can have healthy offspring. Now, I asked you a little while ago what the average death rate of a vegan was, and you couldn't tell me. And the reason you couldn't tell me is we don't have that data because vegans haven't been around long enough to gather that data.
Sure. So here's what you need to express now.
Okay, so it's just agreed. We don't have enough data to even show the lifespan of one generation. So, continue.
You need to express how somebody eating a completely nutritionally adequate diet, i.e. with every nutrient they would need in their diet, will, for some reason, not produce healthy offspring because the way they got their nutrients wasn't the same as someone who pays people to kill animals and eats the animals for nutrients instead. You need to show us all that nutritionally adequate diets are not adequate for procreation.
Yeah, but you're making an assumption that it is nutritionally adequate. There's lots of studies that question that. For example, the low sperm of
the low sperm. I've already got an article here and a study from the University of Chicago that says vegans have more sperm than the average meat eater. So
so we can bang back and forth with different studies arguing different things, but the real data that you can't hide from.
Right.
So go back to the vaccines. We've got studies saying the vaccines work and studies saying they don't. The real data that you can't hide from is if people are dying or not dying. So with the vegan argument, the real data is what age are they living to, and are they having healthy offspring who are then having healthy offspring? That's the data we need to say it's a healthy diet. Does that not seem reasonable? To know if it's healthy, you need to know how long they live and whether they have healthy offspring who have healthy offspring that also live decent lives, decent length lives of healthiness. That just goes without saying. It should be very, very obvious to anybody, not so much to him. That's the data that when they
Yeah,
on
there's no
internet,
there's no data expressing the opposite either, though, is there? There's only data from the nutrition that I told you, the associations of the nutrition and dietetics from multiple countries. They're all in agreement that this diet is nutritionally adequate.
they don't have the data.
There's as I told you earlier, there are meta-analyses showing the reduced risk of cancer.
He keeps going back to their meta-analyses, which are based on lack of data. You can't make a conclusion without the data. So it doesn't matter what organizations he's going to quote. It doesn't matter what studies he's going to quote. None of them have the data to say that it's a long-term healthy diet, because we need to look at it over multi-generations, which he was accepted earlier on, that it does have an effect on the offspring and so on. So a shorter study than that isn't going to tell us if it's long-term healthy. I mean, I don't understand how someone can't see that.
Cancer, reduced risk of all-cause mortality. There's plenty of data out there to show these things. And there's plenty of data out there to show that the standard diet is causing people to have heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and definitely not procreate, die in hospital. So,
David, you can keep talking to me with data that you've got, but you haven't got the data that shows even the lifespan of the vegan.
Yeah, and you haven't got the data to show that there is an issue. You haven't got the data to show that
I don't need the data to show there's an issue. He is the one coming along with a brand new diet, never before used on humans in the entire history of man. He's the one that's got to prove it's healthy. I don't have to prove it's not healthy, and I can't prove it's not healthy without the data, in the same way he can't prove it is healthy. What I'm saying is you need the data to be able to make emphatic claims. He hasn't got the data. He's admitted that they haven't got the data. Therefore, it is not honest to claim that a vegan diet is a long-term healthy diet. You can't, because you haven't got the data. He keeps going back to short-term studies which are meaningless in the overall picture of whether it's a long-term healthy diet. Are your children going to be healthy and live a long normal life? Are your children going to be able to have babies? We don't know these things on an experimental diet. He goes back to claiming that it's because it has every nutrient. We go on I'm not going to do it on here, but we go on, and he doesn't even know hardly anything about the nutrients in his diet. He doesn't know basic things, such as when I ask him, where do you get your B12? He has to admit it isn't in the diet and you have to supplement. That's a bit of a problem. Then you've just claimed it's a nutritionally adequate diet, and now you say, well, actually, you have to supplement to make it nutritionally adequate. He also said that it doesn't have D, so that's another thing he said that he had to supplement. Then I asked him about omegas. I said to him, where do you get your omegas? And he said certain seeds. And I said, which omega is that? Omega-3, which omega-3 is that? And he didn't know. So the omega-3 that the human body needs is not in seeds, but he doesn't know that. He doesn't know the type of omega is even in there. So he's making claims it's nutritionally adequate. And then when you start probing him and asking him, okay, where do you get this? Where do you get that? He has to admit that in some cases it's not in the diet, in a vegan diet. In other cases he thinks it is, but he doesn't really know. So he is making massive claims publicly to huge numbers of people that the vegan diet is a healthy long-term diet, and really what it boils down to, he doesn't have the data. He's trusting organizations who have a massive financial interest in removing meat. The whole New World Order system is trying to remove meat. The United Nations are pushing for a vegan agenda. There's a mass move to go meatless. They're blaming cows for climate warming and so on. So, and the organizations, just the same as in vaccines, just the same as in many other areas, are financially strongly attached to creating certain results, which he is trusting, just as presumably he would have trusted when they used to teach that a low-fat diet was what you needed to do and so on. That's his only argument. He hasn't got the studies, he hasn't got the data. His argument is trust the authorities, the nutritionists, the ones that agree with him, of course, because there's nutritionists that don't agree, many of them, but trust these particular organizations who are funded from places that I think are highly suspect. That's his argument. And those organizations, we cannot trust them because they do not have the data. They do not have the data. So anything that they're saying is based on a very serious lack of data, in exactly the same way when they're saying that vaccines are safe and effective, but they do not have the data to say that. And they have to keep changing their opinion because the data, as more data comes in, it shifts and what have you. That's the situation of vegans. Vegans are doing a diet that is experimental, that does not have the data. There's lots of anecdotal evidence that it's actually seriously harming people. We can't prove it because there's not sufficient data yet, but I'm coming across people all the time who are being harmed. This guy is a major vegan influencer. I just want people to see how they don't have a clue and can't answer. Because when I normally talk to vegans, the everyday vegans, they think their gurus have the answers. It's just because they don't know enough. Their gurus don't have the answers either. Okay, this is one of those guys, and any of the other gurus will not have answers for this. They cannot have answers because they don't have the data. They don't even have the data to be able to give the average age that a vegan lives to. They can't even tell you that because the time period of vegans is so short and it's pushed by a satanic elite agenda. That's where it comes from. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that clip. You can obviously go and watch the whole debate if you want. It goes off, big chunks of it are a bit of a waste of space, and he interrupts me so much, and he's got the louder mic because it's his whatever. But I just wanted you guys to see that the big gun influencer people don't have the answers. He was having some doctor texting him messages trying to help him in responding to some of the stuff as well, some guru of his, and he still wasn't able to come up with answers. This is the truth of it. And by the way, even though they can't come up with answers, they still think they're right. They still think they're right. And his little laugh, however, these organizations say so, that's what you can trust. No, David, you can't trust those organizations because they lie continually about all kinds of stuff. So we can't trust them. We need actual science. And there isn't any actual science because the time period for a brand new experimental diet that humans have never eaten in the history of man is too short to know if humans can thrive on that diet. You can show people maybe who are sick go on a vegan diet and have great results for a short period of time. We can see that. Some people who are sick go on all kinds of diets, even carnivore diet where they eat only meat and they get better. That doesn't tell you it's a long-term healthy diet. Okay, so I hope that was a little bit illuminating for you guys to see a guru like him, a big-time vegan propagandist who makes his living doing that, who was getting paid while we did this debate. There were people paying him for this debate, sending him money for it. And yet he couldn't answer basic, simple questions like how old do vegans live to if you're saying it's healthier, and certainly none of the other questions that followed on. So thank you very much, and hope that was of interest to some of my followers. I'm just gonna let me stop sharing for a second. I'm going to end the stream. Let me just see if anybody chatted. Well, it doesn't look like they did. All right. Okay. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.